Welcome, everyone. If you don't know it already, this is Sri Gary. I'm alive and well. I trust that you are too. Now, I would like to talk to the new seekers that are gathered on the phone line. I would like to address some of their initial questions and concerns of the seeker. And so I would like to extend a gracious welcome to every new seeker from around the globe who are diligently striving to better understand themselves, the purpose of life, and to discover that elusive spiritual truth which will set them free. The simple reason that God, spirit, and soul are so difficult to find is that these three spiritual realities can only be discovered within your own consciousness and not the outside world. If truth is what you truly desire, then the search for this divine truth must be conducted in the place where it resides. Every saint and master who has ever visited this globe has unequivocally stated that God, spirit, soul, and the ultimate truth all reside within the individual. And they cannot be found in the outside world, no matter how hard you try or where you look. This is the biggest nemesis that faces the seeker. They look in the mirror and see themselves reflected there, and they assume there is no way truth, God, and spirit can be within them. The path has ended before it's even started with this assumption. Contrary to all other paths in the world today, the doctrine of light and sound specializes in this inner discovery by revealing to each aspirant the nature of their own divine cosmology, and then with the help of the master, assists each devotee in both exploring and realizing it. Now, every new seeker in the beginning has pressing questions about the master, the light and sound doctrine, as well as oneself. And unless these questions are satisfactorily answered, little draw or magnetism exists for the path. This is very understandable. Some questions are easily addressed, while there are others which, even though an explanation is given, the new seeker requires some personal experience to fully understand the answer. A question can come in many different shapes and forms, as some questions are inspired by physical circumstances, others by emotional considerations, as well as those inspired by mental doubt or curiosity. Sometimes the ego is the father of the question, or perhaps a nagging piece of karma. But rarely does a question arise which is derived from the soul of our being. Questions can only arise when we know not who we are, because the soul itself knows all things and has no need of questions. But since a seeker and most chelas are not self-realized at this time, questions naturally arise which must be adequately addressed. Interestingly enough, the most common question that is considered for everyone, though seldom asked out loud, is one's sense of unworthiness. We can outwardly project an aura of having it together. We can say the right things to our friends and employer, but deep within our thoughts and feelings, a sense of inadequacy, unworthiness, or being unqualified looms large. We can deceive others, but not ourselves, And so it is this false perception of ourselves, along with our own self-judgment, which makes us feel unqualified, unfit, and deeply ineligible for anything spiritually transcendent. Several issues come to light in such a scenario, and I want to make sure that my chelas are listening just as attentively as a new seeker. Who is making this self-assessment of one's unworthiness? An engram? An emotion? A distorted thought? Or perhaps the ego? It could also be the product of a hypnotic suggestion given by church, parents, or friends. One thing is clear, however, and that is whoever is making this negative assumption concerning your unworthiness is certainly not your own soul, spirit, or the master, but only the false or apparent self. When the seeker spotlights their illusory self, no one is worthy, so anti-spiritual is it. But the seeker is not their lower or apparent self, but rather a divine spark of God, known as soul. The soul of our being is presently hid from our sight, but this in no way negates our divine nature. And so this sense of unworthiness is always spawned by the seeker's lower components and not the soul itself. Please note this last statement. In the eyes of God, everyone is worthy, but in the eyes of one's own mind and ego, no one is. And so the negative illusory forces within one, long before the spiritual efficacy of any path is even researched, attempts to invalidate your investigation through a negative self-image of oneself, desiring to stop the seeker before they even get started, or at least steer one in a different direction. If the negative forces can make you feel unworthy, little chance exists in embracing any doctrine, no matter what it is. This tactic employed by the negative karmic overlords is the most diabolical one of all, for it amounts to unknowingly practicing black magic upon yourself with the sole intent of halting your spiritual evolution. When dispassionately viewed, this diabolical tactic is ingenuously laid upon the whole of humanity with the aim of viewing themselves as less than the divine being which they actually are. You see, you feel unworthy or disqualified, and here you're a son or daughter of God. Go figure. Someone's lying. Therefore, always be aware of your sense of unworthiness, because everyone falls short at this stage. Everyone has a checkered past. And this is why the saints of all times have declared, "Even though I am unworthy, Lord, I am still thine." The next pressing consideration or question is, can the outer master be trusted? Is what he says even true? The general answer is that no one can be fully trusted, not even oneself, until sufficient research and investigation has been done. A true master insists upon a thorough inquiry into the teachings, refusing to accept them on just blind faith alone, but rather personal experience, On the MasterPath, 2 full years is given the interested seeker to assess the veracity of the light and sound doctrine, along with sizing up the outer master and gauging one's own intensity of desire for the path. The teachings, the master, and your own overall experience must find favor with you and speak to you deep in your own heart before the idea of embracing the teachings or the master could ever be considered. And so both the authenticity of the master, along with an inherent skepticism of embracing anyone in this capacity, looms large for any new seeker. It's probably the biggest issue of all. Although this experience varies with each individual, it should not become a cause for concern, because resonating with the light and sound teachings is far more important than the idea of embracing a master at this time. The outer master is here to predominantly explain and safeguard the true teachings. Subsequently, as the seeker increasingly comes to understand the import of the light and sound doctrine, so too will your understanding of the divine role of the master naturally expand. Secondly, it is only natural for a seeker at this stage not to be able to correctly discriminate between a true and pseudo-guru, nor the higher qualifications which are to be met. Further complicating issues is that initially it is the lower ego and mind which makes this all-important assessment about the master. And as such, they are far more concerned about their own lower survival as opposed to the soul's survival. Therefore, the seeker in the beginning usually relates to the master more as a friend or an acquaintance. And this is sufficient in my eyes. If you truly wish to know who the master actually is, it will be revealed more by studying the light and sound doctrine along with any spiritual experiences you may have. And so a true master is never offended by anyone thoroughly investigating both himself and the light and sound doctrine, because truth never has anything to hide. This truth will easily reveal itself if the seeker is sincere, because truth wants you as much as you desire the truth. It is best, therefore, to not blindly trust anyone, nor their respective teaching, until you can verify it for yourself through personal experience. And this applies to the MasterPath, dear ones. The time and energy it takes to properly investigate any path is never wasted, even if it takes several months or years. And this sagely advice applies to MasterPath as well. The seeker should always be carefully discriminate, ensuring that the path speaks to them in both head and heart. We have briefly discussed the seeker's sense of unworthiness and the need to investigate both the master and the light and sound path, which brings us to the qualifications of the seeker. When first hearing about the esoteric teachings of MasterPath, so lofty and profound are they that hardly anyone perceives themselves as being duly qualified. There are, in fact, no hard-fisted qualifications, because at its base, the longing for truth, God, and the spiritual solutions to one's own dilemma are all that is needed. More specifically speaking, the seeker must have a stable mind, as well as being free of past religious and metaphysical affiliations. Addictions to drugs, drink, or pharmaceuticals should have previously been addressed because a spiritual path is not a rehab center. It must be pointedly stressed, however, that everyone is shouldering a heavy load of karma when first embracing the path, and so usually no one feels 100% whole or completely qualified. This is why the intensity of desire for both truth and God is sufficient, because with this initial spiritual impulse, everything else eventually gets straightened out. No doubt morals and ethics play an important role in any spiritual endeavor, for they serve as the initial foundation for further growth. But more pertinent yet are the principles of balance and moderation in all things. Nothing is unclean in and of itself, but rather only how we use it. We should be able to enjoy the creation at large without the threat of becoming entrapped within it. And so it is not so much what we do as how we do it. That can be a real mind twister. Please understand that these qualifications are given as ideals, with hardly anyone being able to completely fulfill them. And this is why an investigative period of 6 months to a year is afforded each new aspirant before initiation is given. Not only to size up the teachings and the master, but to prepare the seeker as well. Normally, one wants a clean glass before they pour anything into it. And the same principle applies to spirituality, in that our vessel must be clean in order for the divine spirit to be poured into it. This is a gradual process, but one that cannot be avoided, because purification precludes all spiritual advancement. This is the correct meaning of the biblical phrase of not being able to fit a camel through the eye of a needle. The eye of the needle symbolically represents the veil of the third eye, which cannot be successfully penetrated with backpacking too much materialistic or psychic baggage. When a seeker is considering the viability of the path, or actually embracing it, it is not so much a mental decision as it is one's spiritual destiny created in past lifetimes. Now, very few understand this because they're not aware of their past lives. But you just don't sign up for the path. It's something that you've been preparing for centuries and lifetimes. Seldom does the mind of the seeker feel qualified to walk the path, but the saving grace is that you are not the conscious mind, but more the indwelling soul. In other words, the soul is the true disciple, and not the conscious, subconscious, or unconscious minds. This last point vividly brings out the ideal of self-realization for each and all alike are not their physical, emotional, or mental natures, but only their own innate divinity as soul. This is the entire purpose of the path. To realize our true self, but all kinds of obstacles stand in the way of doing so. A saint or master will unabashedly state that no one inhabiting this globe knows who they actually are, except those who have attained self-realization. Of course, this statement is scoffed and laughed at by the masses of humankind, but they can superficially laugh in their misery as long as they want. Only those who have come to the end of their road usually find themselves ready This is one reason why the saints recommend staying with whatever doctrine or faith that you find favor with and are presently engaged, or finish any dabbling in the occult practices to which you are drawn before embracing the light and sound doctrine. This suggestion is similar to advising someone in the world of relationships to finish playing the field before getting married. Two lovers, two paths, or serving two masters seldomly works because one's focus is not singular, which by matter of extension makes penetrating the veil of the third eye very difficult, if not impossible. It is the same reason you do not see a professional athlete playing two sports. In high school, you could play and devote yourself to different seasonal sports, but as you rise up into college and professional endeavors, your focus becomes singular, and subsequently you commit to just one sport. Likewise, a Chela never wants to become a jack of all paths and the master of none. And so to become successful in any endeavor, complete focus and commitment are required, whether referring to marriage, occupation, athletics, or spirituality. Many times when a seeker first hears about the sound current, they have no concept or understanding of what it is. The normal citizen has no knowledge of the principal powers underpinning the creation at large and usually lumps them all together, calling it spirit or the creative power. Now, this is fine as long as you keep your spiritual search in the general category. Calling it all spirit is just fine because no one's interested in spirit. However, there are four powers or essences that create and support the entire structure of the creation, and they are termed the Kundalini power, the prana, the universal mind power, and the true essence of all essences called the sound current. The first three powers are considered by the saints and masters to be the light current, which are completely dual in nature. And the fourth power, called the sound, is forever one, being the ultimate source of true spirit and the father of all the rest. So the first three powers, the Kundalini, the prana, and the universal mind power, are dualistic in nature and are not really spiritual at all. The fourth power, called the sound current, the Shabda, the Nam, is singular in nature and the father of all the other powers. Millions of devotees follow each power through either Kundalini Yoga, Prana Yoga, the Yoga of Knowledge or Vedanta, and the Yoga of the Sound Current. Each power has a critical role in supporting and sustaining the lower creation, and if each of these powers could speak, the Kundalini power, or the sexual power, would claim it was the creator of all life. The prana power would proclaim that through breath, it was the sustainer of all life. The universal mind power would announce it was the greatest because it made all thought and knowledge possible. But the sound current would say that it was the source of all the lesser three and represented the true spirit of God. All of the religions, philosophies, occult sciences and yogic endeavors of the world are sustained by either the Kundalini, the prana, or the universal mind power of knowledge. The sound current is completely separate and totally unknown to all of them. This is such a universal statement. I'll be surprised if 10 people understand it. As vital as these lower three powers are, they have nothing to do with the principle of true spirituality or the attainment of self and God realization. This sound current can only be attained through initiation by a living master who has descended from the higher realms, and its only purpose is to return the soul of our being to the place of its origin. And so the sound current emanates from the Creator or the Supreme Deity, while all lesser powers are tasked with running and maintaining the lower four planes of creation. In the most simplistic terms, the powers of sex, breathing, and thought are not part of the higher levels of heaven, nor can the physical, causal, or mental bodies exist in the pure positive God worlds, as they are only temporary sheaths covering the soul. So when the masters refer to the light and sound doctrine, the light encompasses all lesser powers of action, the vital energies of Kundalini, the prana, as well as all transcendental knowledge. The sound current represents the true spirit, the essence of all other essences, the singular creative power, and the unmanifest manifested. The soul must first travel through light in order to get to the sound. The Chela must travel first through mind in order to realize the soul, for all knowledge precedes realization. And so we travel through knowledge, but we cannot get hung up there. Knowledge serves just as a pointer towards the higher truth. And so light comes first, whether illumination or enlightenment. And sound comes second, exclusively centering around self and God realization. Humanity at large is familiar with the light, but nothing is known about the celestial sound current. The light is always dual, the sound forever one. We have now briefly discussed three of the four cornerstones of the light and sound doctrine, which are the true teachings, the true master, and the true spiritual essence known as sound. The fourth quintessential centers around the true path. Normally, the seeker would assume that the first three quintessentials were the divine path, but in truth, they are only pointers or prerequisites for discovering the true path. Whenever the term path is used, the reference is being made as something external to the individual, something which must be found in the outside world. Every seeker is in search of the true path, one that is free of deceit, illusion, and misrepresentation. And so the seeker scours the world at large in search of that path which is pure. But in truth, it is never found because the seeker is externalizing their search. The basic assumption is that the true spiritual path must be external to and separate from oneself. And this is where the error is made. The true path resides within you and not outside of you. The idea that the true path is within you and not the outside world seems preposterous and absurd. And so this consideration is never entertained, so outlandish does it appear. How could the true path be within me, a sluggard, a desire freak? This is why these light and sound teachings have been named in the 21st century as the MasterPath. Because not only are you the divine path, but the eventual master as well. Every spiritual aspirant is their own path, their own religion, their own master, and their own law unto themselves. In truth, we are the object of our own search. We are the saint to be, known as self and God realization. But both of these accomplishments can only be attained by discovering and walking our own divine path just above our own third eye. Our own divine path can never be found unless we have the unfailing assistance of the true teachings, the true master, and the true spiritual power known as sound. These four cornerstones, or the quintessentials, make up the doctrine of light and sound, which are revolutionary in both their approach and practice, ensuring safe passageway to not only self and God realization, but the kingdom of heaven as well. There are literally no other doctrines in the world at large that offers these four cornerstones of true spirituality except the teachings of light and sound. And this is why they are defined as being esoteric or known only by a few, so secret are they. This should not be accepted on face value, but only revealed through your own personal research. There are a few other questions that should be addressed. Number one, is the MasterPath or the Light and Sound Doctrine a New Age teaching? Did Sri Gary cook it up in the backyard while doing the barbecue? The Light and Sound Doctrine precedes every other known teaching. So ancient is it. In truth, all known religions and the yogic endeavors of our world are considered the New Age teachings. Now, I'm putting my own spin on this. It's the teachings you are familiar with that are the New Age teachings. But Gary, they go back thousands of years. Well, I'm fully aware of that. Hinduism, Buddhism, Christianity, Islam, and all yogic practices have had their origins within the last several thousand years, whereas the Light and Sound Doctrine had its origin long before humankind even incarnated upon this planet. All of the religions, yogas, and the cult practices were created by man himself. Now understand this, it's not too heavy for you. While through comparison, the Light and Sound Doctrine was created by the Supreme Deity long before the formation of the worlds, planes, and planets. It is true that America has not seen the Light and Sound teachings in its short history, but thankfully, the masters have now begun their missions on the shores of this infant country, spreading the Light and Sound Doctrine to all those who have the eyes to see and the ears to receive its divine message. Every known teaching upon this planet has had a beginning. Think about that. And therefore, it will also have an end. But not so with the Light and Sound Doctrine. Any teaching which has both a beginning and an end cannot be a true teaching, because the true doctrine must transcend both time and space and anything else created by man. Man, or humankind, came first. All other spiritual teachings came later. The true teachings were instilled in the heart of soul long before humankind invented any other doctrines, and subsequently the light and sound doctrine is the only path which is not a new age teaching. Second question, do I have to give up my profession and home to follow this teaching? Not at all, for everything should stay the same. In truth, the Chela becomes a better husband or wife, a better father or mother, or a better employer or employee. All that changes is that the Chela brings a higher level of consciousness into all of their affairs, basically improving and spiritualizing all that one partakes in. A third question, why should I have to follow the MasterPath? It seems that I could follow any path to achieve my objective. You can follow any doctrine you wish. Spirituality is much like education, in that it makes little difference whether you go to a private school, a public school, a parochial school, or a religious school, because an education is received in all of them. It's the education that matters. It is not the school, but education that matters. And likewise, it is not the doctrine, but spirituality which matters. Once an individual does receive an education, they must decide what to do after their schooling. And similarly, after achieving spirituality through any of the numerous doctrines available in the globe, one also must decide what to do. The two choices facing this individual is whether to penetrate the veil of the third eye or remain in the outside world beneath the eyes. Understand that both traditional education and conventional spirituality only prepares one for what is to follow and is not an end in itself. All separate doctrines existing in the world are only meant to mature and prepare you for the spiritual journey within. And so you can choose any school or doctrine that you wish. Just understand that they both are meant as a form of preliminary training. Where all religions, occult studies, and yogic practices come to an end, the light and sound doctrine begins. Another question. When I am emotionally honest with myself, I see so many personal obstacles and competing desires standing in the way that it seems literally impossible to qualify for this path. Fair enough. We all go through this. The philosophy of the saints and masters emphasizes that nothing can or should be given up until there is something of more value to replace it. I've said this many times, but a child will not part with either their scooter or a tricycle until a bicycle is given them. And then they easily adopt the new for the old. In the same way, when more Shabda enters the individual's consciousness, its inherent value easily supersedes the lesser value of any existing impediments, and they just naturally purify themselves and fall away. The child did not have to go through the agony of forfeiting their tricycle simply because the bicycle was such an upgrade. And the same principle applies to the purification of the seeker's checkered past. and present dilemmas. It is the spiritual current which removes all obstacles, barriers, and shortcomings in both the seeker and the chela. And so the simple solution to one's self-perceived dilemma is to both attract and absorb more of the sound current. The sound current is the cleansing agent, not hard-fisted personal effort. The opportunities available to one by following the light and sound doctrine are unparalleled, inconceivable, and life-changing. Whereas other doctrines specialize in the physical, emotional, or mental nature of the seeker, the light and sound teachings center around one's spiritual nature. Soul is the central reality of our composite nature, and unless the soul of our being is not specifically addressed, illusion and maya continue to predominate. The paths of karmic action, religious devotion, the vital energies of Kundalini and the prana, as well as the divine knowledge of Vedanta, do not address the soul of our being, but only the emotions and mind surrounding our soul. As such, the light and sound doctrine is known as the most direct path back into the heart of God. This teaching transcends austerities, rituals, amulets, singing, fasting, prayer, and meditation. This doctrine does not depend on ascended masters, the study and memorization of past scripture, special yogic postures, or wearing colored robes and turbans in some remote ashram. If you cannot find God in your own heart, he most certainly cannot be found in some gilded outside temple, some antiquated practice, or the supposed authority of another. The individual, in order to find God, must turn inward under the competent guidance of a true Satguru. Turning inward can be defined as collecting the scattered attention from the outside world and your body and pointedly redirecting it towards the third eye. This conscious effort at refocusing one's attention at the third eye transitions the seeker from natural evolution into spiritual evolution, which expedites the spiritual journey tenfold, if not 100-fold. Human evolution is very much like snail mail. Spiritual evolution is direct. In the beginning of the seeker's journey, the outside world appears real and the inside world only a dream. But once the third eye is penetrated, the outside world now becomes a dream and the inside world's real. By turning inward does the devotee find their own divine path, exposing the old adage that all paths lead to God in the outside world, or that all roads lead to Rome. All of these relative paths in the world at large can only lead to a relative God, whereas the inner path of the devotee leads to the absolute God, who is beyond all relativity. Understand that the Christian God and those gods of other religions only extend up to the first or second levels of heaven. And there are 8 levels of heaven. And so there are gods and lords that far, far surpass the traditional God of Christianity or Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, or any of the other religions of the world. Understand that all of the external paths, such as religion, philosophy, and the occult, were originally created by the mind of humankind and not the absolute God of all. Man came first and all other doctrines later. Therefore, all outer paths are supposed to serve humankind rather than humankind serving and being obeisant to an outside doctrine. The world has made all doctrines more important than the human being itself. And we all know that the human being was created in God's image and not the multiplicity of external doctrines. The true religion, the true path, the true self, and the true God are all to be found within you and not the outside world. The churches and religions of the world would never tell you this. Their congregation would evaporate within 1 month. No doctrines can ever replace the innate divinity of the individual. And this is what is realized when the seeker turns inward and removes the veil obscuring their own third eye. I just have a few more considerations, just basic points for the new seekers that are attending this meeting, for the new seekers that will eventually hear this satsang. Number 1, no soul is ever lost or consigned to hell forevermore. Now, if you just give that statement some breath, it just completely negates every religion in the world. They're using fear to build their membership, the fear of hell. And if you don't follow their way, you're being consigned to hell. And I've just said the opposite. No soul is ever lost or consigned to hell forevermore. Number 2, every human being exists exactly where they are supposed to. That means there's no inequality. Number 3, no one has been dealt an unfair hand. Number 4, the law of karma and reincarnation are the ruling principles to all life. Number 5, both free will and predestination exist. People want to say, well, which one is it, free will or predestination? It's both of them. Your free will that you exercised in one life turns out to be your predestination in the next life. You were the creator of it. You abused free will. There's effects for your free will. There's effects for every cause. So both free will and predestination exist. It's not just one or the other. Number 6, the ultimate purpose of life is to attain both self and God realization. Period. That's why we're here. A one-liner. Everyone is trying to figure out what's the purpose of life. Why am I here? What's going on? Well, you just heard what the purpose of life is. Number 7, our true self is not the body, mind, personality, or ego, but rather the divine soul of our composite nature. This is why no one knows who they are on this planet, except those who are self-realized. It's a very, very strong statement, but it's true nonetheless. Number 8, there are pseudo-gurus and true gurus. You must have a true guru in order to attain self-realization. Number 9, a true guru is commissioned by God. A false guru, more by one's own mind and ego. Number 10, there is no worship of the outer master, only the divine spirit within each devotee. Goodbye, cultic practices. Number 11, a true guru can manifest on both the outer and inner planes. If your guru cannot do this, he's a pseudo-guru. The aspirant must have a living master as compared to an ascended master. See, an ascended master can only manifest on the inside planes, but he's absent on the outside plane. Some masters can be in front of you physically on the outside plane, but they cannot manifest to you in your dream state or your inner travels. So a Satguru has the power to manifest to his own chelas on both the outside and inside planes. Number 13, even though the light and sound doctrine is the highest known path, the highest doctrine to the seeker is the one they are innately drawn to. I stand by this statement. Go and embrace any doctrine, religion, or philosophy that you are drawn to. There's purpose and meaning to it. That rules over everything. So if you're hearing this light and sound message, but you're drawn to Christian precepts more strongly, then I recommend you follow your Christian precepts to the end until you find out their limitation. Now you're willing to let go of the Christian precepts and purely go after anything new that you're drawn to. So whatever you're drawn to, loved ones, go for it. There's a reason you're being drawn to it. When the seeker is ready, the master will somehow appear. 15, the divine path is always individual and never collective. Oh, how sweet that point is. The church makes you think you're all going up in one big group. Or if you die early, you got to wait for Christ's return, whenever that's supposed to be. See, that's a collective approach. No, individually, when you're ready to ascend into the heavenly states of consciousness, it happens in the blink of an eye. Number 16, your own divine path exists just behind your own two eyes, and only you can tread it. 17, the accrued benefits in embracing the light and sound doctrine are known as illumination, enlightenment, cosmic consciousness, then liberation, realization, and salvation. In closing, God, spirit, soul, and the truth do not exist outside of one's self, nor can they ever be found in the temples, ashrams, or antiquated scriptures of the world, but they can be discovered within yourself. God and spirit can never be found if the seeker is searching in the wrong direction. Simply by inverting your gaze and looking within will the realities of God, spirit, soul, and truth begin coming into your orbit, inspiring yourself forevermore. Thank you for your time and attention in partaking of this satsang. Many, many blessings to all of you. Baraka Bashad.